NFC East. The Commanders had a very good free agency period. I like their GM. I think Eagles-Commanders will battle down to the end. A lot of free agent losses for the Eagles. They still have the deepest roster. I'll pick them over the Commanders, but I think the Commanders, Laramie Tunsil, Debo Samuel, is a win-now acquisition. They kept guys like Zach Ertz. So I think that's a very close competition. I'll take the better roster to win. Dallas third, not active in free agency, still got to pay Micah, up against the cap. Dak Prescott off a second lower body injury. Giants, it doesn't really matter if Aaron goes there, Russell Wilson goes there. I think there's going to be so much pressure on the organization to win now. I'll pick the Giants for fourth.
Yeah. I think this is interesting. I think the Eagles and the Commanders in this division is definitely about to get pretty fun. And I think part of what could benefit the Commanders in this situation is if the Commanders play the Eagles earlier. I think getting a new offensive coordinator, dealing with some of the extra kind of, I don't want to say Super Bowl hangover per se, but this offseason is definitely going to be a little different for the Eagles. They're going to feel pretty good about themselves, feeling confident. They definitely are hungry, make no mistake about it. You saw that with all their guys, like even during the Super Bowl when it was clear that they were going to win, they were all like, we want more. They weren't just celebrating and like, this is the greatest thing ever. This is all we ever needed. So, if you're a Commanders fan thinking that the Eagles are going to just kind of be on cruise control, I don't believe that for a second at all. That just is not the culture of that team, as we've seen how consistent they've been over the last decade or so. But I do still think that like it's still going to have a little bit different of an energy. And I think if the Commanders play them early, the Commanders are going to be hungry. Like they want redemption. They want revenge. They want what the Eagles have. That's the reality, right? Jane Daniels wants to be the Super Bowl MVP. That's what he wants. He wants to be winning. He wants the confetti. That's what he wants. And that's what that team wants, obviously. And I just think with a lot of the continuity that they'll be able to have offensively, and obviously like the welcoming addition with Debo, and not being able to see what that'll even look like until week 1 or week 2. I think an early matchup, especially week 1, would significantly benefit the Commanders. Not to say that you're guaranteed to win, because it's always hard. The week 1 is always, the first couple weeks in general are always a little bit difficult to predict. The type of rust you'll have. Did anyone get kind of like banged up in during preseason and whatnot? But I just think that when you're also going to have a new coach, you just won a Super Bowl, a new like offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's just that potential for things just to be a little kind of, not 100% what you would want to have if you're an Eagles fan. That defense should still be ready to go. But I still think that they'll still have some stuff that they have to figure out and kind of get in rhythm. So, the reason why I'm kind of doing this whole long-winded, intro into that is because, right, I do think that this can come down to, just a game or two. And so any type of win that you can get is just a major benefit. It really, really is. So, I'm curious what this schedule exactly formally looks like in terms of, more specifically when everyone is going to be playing one another, because I do think that matters. I really, really do. But I don't think any Eagles fan or Commanders fan for that matter is going to be too concerned about the Cowboys or Giants, but Dak will be better. He'll be better. So like he'll actually be playing. So that's still a team that can obviously still beat you. It's not like you're kind of guaranteed to go 2-0. You should be pretty much guaranteed to go 2-0 against the Giants. But I do foresee that this division will potentially come down to, who makes a boneheaded mistake and drops a game to the Cowboys or the Giants, right? Like, how did you lose to the Giants at home in week 5, right? Like I could see the division coming down to just something like so dumb and absurd in that realm. But the Eagles also are going to have a disadvantage because they're going to have to play better teams, right? They're going to have the harder schedule. So it'll be interesting to see if any of the teams that were good last year, if they take any type of step back, and if the teams that are kind of okay take a step forward, and that's kind of like where the Commanders fall in line. But you know, you're gonna favor the Eagles to win the division, based on kind of how things unfolded last season, of course, as well as winning the Super Bowl. But in no way do I see it being like a guarantee, or like last season, for instance, going into this year. I was very much like the Eagles are going to win the division and the Commanders are going to be in second. Like, I was very confident about that, and it made sense to me. And I remember telling the Commanders fans, like, dude, like, this team is about to be legit. Like, don't lose any sleep over not winning the division. Like, this is good. And then I said, and then the following years, you're going to be legitimately competing for the division. And then, here we go. That's what I think is going to happen this year. Like, that's what it's really going to come down to. I just, it'll be probably closer to what we also saw with the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. So it's like, can the Eagles squeak out 2 wins against Commanders, or do they go 0-2, or is it 1-1? Does it all come down to the final game? Like, I'm so interested to see, because the NFL is going to try to predict this, and there's going to be a great chance that the Eagles and the Commanders play each other final game of the season. Like, they loved what that game was and that hype was with the Lions versus the Vikings. And if you win, you have a bye, and if you lose, you're down to the 5th seed. Like, that's box office. That's money. That's exciting. The fans are into it. The stadium's rocking. The media, everyone's talking. It's an extra playoff game. So I assume they're going to try to do that, but then they also want this revenge game, week 1. I mean, they could essentially do both. They could have week 1 and week 18 or whatever, and it would just be rocking, revenge game, and it all comes down to this. But the chances when you do play at the final game of the season like that, there's also the chance of like, it doesn't matter, seating's already locked, and then now Jalen's not playing, Jalen's not playing, and then it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's also the risk. So I'm to me, the way how the actual construction of the schedule, and not so much just the teams, will probably have a bigger impact than either of these teams, Eagles or Commanders, honestly would want to give credit to, because I do think to a degree when you play some of these teams actually matters a lot, not just who you're playing. But I just think, I think there's the benefit to having the Commanders lose in the NFC Championship game, and then seeing their longtime, forever divisional rival win the Super Bowl, right? Beating them en route to winning the Super Bowl, all of that type of stuff. I think it just, Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury, etc., like, they just got a front row seat into what their future can be. And they got a front row seat into the pain that they don't want to experience again. And Dan Quinn has already experienced that to a large degree, losing in a Super Bowl. But I just think that there's just going to be, I just think that there's going to be a lot of hyper focus on what needs to be done. And I don't think you're going to have to, I think last year the Commanders had a lot of like convincing each other, hey, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And I think this season will be more of like, we know we can do this. And it's just a different energy. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Washington Commanders? Do you think it's fair to say that they'll be the number 2 in the NFC East and the Eagles will still win the division? Or you think the Commanders got it this coming season? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.